Hey people in YouTube land, Zach Hall here. Just want to give you guys another review. Today we're going to be looking at the R.L. Allan long primer produced by R.L. Allan and Sons. And this one we're looking at is the long primer bound in a black Mariva calfskin with the blue Beresford ribbons and the red undergold gild. And I also want to do some comparisons here between some of the Bibles that'd be the closest to it to give you guys an idea of the size and really the beauty and really the awesomeness of this Bible. This thing is really, really cool. So I want to get into this review. So I'm going to do the comparisons at the end. I'll do a quick run through of the Bible itself. There are more in-depth reviews on the long primer if you want to see those. However, I will run through what it looks like on the outside and the inside, the chain references, and some of the unique features of the long primer. So I'll try to get through that quickly and then move to comparisons for you guys to see the different comparisons between the different Bibles out there, like Schuyler, Humble Lamb, the Cambridge Concord, the Turquoise, and the Westminster, just to kind of show you a range of Bibles that the long primer would compare to. But getting back to this Bible, amazingly bound in this Mariva calfskin. This is a very thick piece of calfskin that they put on this, and they line it, of course, with calfskin as well. And this is the Mariva calfskin. It is very thick and supple. It is so soft, though, super soft, even softer than goat skin. So it's a really cool one. Now, I got this one because Allan did not have their Highland goatskin. I know that Allan Bible technically is the Highland goatskin version of the long primer, but they started producing these versions with different covers as well. And really, the long primer text block is the R.L. Allan standard, is the flagship text block for them. Now, for those that don't know, the long primer text block was actually developed by Oxford University Press back in the day. I believe it was, I know the latest printings they have are from the 1950s. I think it goes back earlier than that, though. So it's an old text block. However, Oxford stopped producing it. I don't know why they decided to do that. I think that was a bad decision on their part. But R.L. Allan got the rights to then print it, and they bind it in some of the finest bindings in the world. And so, just taking a look on this on the outside, I want you guys to see how smooth that grain is on that calfskin. Now, when you fold it back, you can see that grain pops a little bit. And with the Mariva calfskin editions, okay, this is the 52 long primer, which denotes that it's calfskin. If it was 53, it would be the Highland goatskin. Now, the 52s are only semi-yap, so they do not have a full yap. So if I try to bring these two together, you see they do not meet all the way on the end. Okay, but you do have a really generous yap. It's very beautiful. Actually, when it came in the box, it came in a blue navy box. The standard R.L. Allan box came wrapped in white paper, and it was wrapped very nicely. The yap, you could see, was already starting to form because of the paper. Then you get the standard stuff, that's just the standard, the elegance, the beauty of the R.L. Allan Bible. So you get inside here, nice pleated corners work. Okay, this one, the Mariva calfskin, is bound by Royal Young Blood of the Netherlands. It's a navy blue liner. So the goatskin, or the Mariva calfskin on the outside is black. The calfskin, or the calf split leather, is navy blue. See, Mariva calfskin. Got the single gold gilt line. On the Highland goatskin edition, you would get 2 gold gilt lines, but on this one you get 1. Nonetheless, is still very beautiful. Get navy end sheets. These are very thick, nice end sheets. You get 3 beautiful Beresford ribbons. The ribbons in the 52 are slightly shorter than the ones in the Highland goatskin. I don't have one of those to compare for you, but I would say there's really, if you can't get your hands on a goatskin one, do not pass up on this Mariva calfskin. This is one of the best Bibles I've ever felt in my life. I have an Allan with a goatskin liner, or with a goatskin cover. It's their natural goatskin, not the Highland. And I would say that the Mariva calfskin is way better than the natural goatskin. Now, the Highland I've heard is the best, but I have not seen that yet. So, but I wanted to say, do not pass up on this. If all you can get is the Mariva, this is well worth it, and it's cheaper than the Highland goatskin as well. So on the inside, you get some cardstock pages you saw there. Get the presentation page. You get all the family record, children, marriages, grandchildren, and deaths at the end. Get 1 page in between here. and then you get their title page. And you have your license up here. It shows they have the right to print it. You can see here the long primer reference Bible, first published by Oxford University Press, where this edition is published now. So R.L. Allan and Sons. This one is printed and bound in the Netherlands, as we'll see in the back. You get the epistle dedicatory to King James. Then you get the names of all the books of the Bible with on what page they start and how many chapters are in each book. Then you have an alphabetical list of them as well. This is the guide to pronunciation. So this is pronouncing edition. I'll show you that as well. Here's a note on the references. So this just tells you that it's not based off the English words. It's actually based off the Greek and Hebrew words, how they make references linked together. This is a chain reference Bible, meaning so if you have a chain in Genesis, say Genesis chapter 1, it'll then link you to the next reference, maybe in Exodus, and then throughout the whole Bible till you get to the very end. And then once you get to the very end reference, it will reference all the way back to the first chain, which would be in the book of Genesis. So it does that in whatever book you're in. Then here are some abbreviations to the references used. So if you want to take a look at that, you can pause that and read it. There are some critical notes in the margin of the King James that reflect 20th century scholarship on biblical text, and I think the scholarship of this is definitely outdated by now, and some of the notes in here are kind of laughable, but again, the point is the beautiful text. You do get the King James Bible, and this is an amazing Bible. So you get a 10 to 11 point font here with the long primer. It's more set in a Times New Roman font, or in that vein. It's not actually Times New Roman. I think it's Roman, called Roman font. It's a very beautiful font though. 36 GSM paper is what it's printed on. So it is a thicker paper. The ghosting is really not that bad, especially in person. The paper has a slight cream color to it. So it's not blue, it's not bright white, it is a cream color. The font is definitely dark. It does have printing variations. So sometimes it'll be more gray than black, and then sometimes it's pretty bold. So you can see here you get chapter 1. Your verse numbers are nice and large, which is great for preaching and following if someone is preaching or just reading in general. You get the pilcrow markers to break up the paragraph sections, and then you have your references in the middle here, and they're chained, okay, with letters. And then if there's a textual note, that'll be with a number. So like here you have 4, and right there, that is a textual note. Let you guys see that text. Okay. You can see this. I've only had this for a couple days. It does lay flat out of the box. So the cover again is so floppy that it actually lays more flat than the text block does. But you guys can see it does also have a nice margin all the way around. So the text for me never bends too far in the gutter. You do have enough margin out here to put symbols or cross references if you wanted. Page numbers are on the bottom corners, and you have running headers at the top, and then the book and chapter number in the corner. What I like about the long primer too, and I don't know if this is true of all editions, but at least the ones they've been coming out with, the book and chapter in the corner are bolded even more than the text is. So if you're a preacher and you're flipping through here, it is really the first thing that catches your eye on any page. So you can see as I'm flipping through here, it's bolder than the text, so it kind of pops off the page that the book name and the chapter in the top. So if you're preaching, you're looking for cross references, this is going to allow you to look it up really quick with that bolded text. It's really nice. Now, of course, you have these beautiful double-dyed red page edges here from Allan. Very nice, very beautiful. You can see how many references this thing has. I think it has over or close to 100,000 chain references, so it is up there in the reference category. The Psalms, Proverbs, this is obviously a older text setting, so it is going to be double column throughout. There's no poetry, no letter breaking, or anything like that. It is just double column, verse by verse. So there's a look at the Psalms. It is a black letter edition as well. So let's go ahead and get that. Books start on the same page at the end. For the most part, there are some exceptions to that. If it's close enough to the bottom of the page, it may start on a new page. But for the most part, you're going to get this where, here Mark ends and then you get into Luke. Here you can see some example of the self-pronouncing text. And I'll go back to Matthew, but you can see as we're flipping through the New Testament here, it is not a red letter edition. So you can see here, it only puts self-pronunciation on the more difficult words. I was debating between this and the RL and blackface, and I lean more towards the long primer because the blackface literally puts self-pronouncing marks in everything, even the book titles, it'll have self-pronouncing marks. I'm not against it, but for me, I thought that'd be a little much. So I'm glad the long primer only does it on the harder words. But what I want to show you here too is you can see the darkness of this page here. If I go back towards Genesis, let's see here. There are some pages, for example, like here it's more gray, and you saw back in Malachi is a lot more dark. So I'll try to find some more examples of that, but where you can see there in Matthew, a lot bolder of the text. So sometimes it does have some print consistency, I wouldn't say issues, but there's definitely some variations in it. Show you some of the critical notes. One famous one is Mark 16, which is a pretty bogus note, but we'll look at it here. And they're not bad. I mean, not anything crazy. But it says here, the two oldest Greek manuscripts and other authorities omit verse 9 to the end. Now, this note is a little dishonest, okay? And again, this is why I said this reflects older 20th century manuscript evidence and scholarship. Today, it would be widely recognized that the ending of Mark is probably authentic as far as the manuscript tradition is concerned. So if you look at James Snap Jr. has a great video on the ending of Mark, which shows that there's over 1,633 manuscripts that we have of Mark today. And of those 1,633, the ending of Mark is in 1,630 of them. So only 3 witnesses do not account for it. So it's vastly in the manuscript tradition. And yet here you can see the preference of the older manuscripts are better than the more numerous manuscripts. And that's kind of a flawed logic when it comes to textual scholarship. But I want to show you that note. So same thing. I think the same thing goes for in 1 John 5:7 as well. But we'll flip through this as we get there, and you guys can just see. This is such a unbelievable Bible, though. So well made. It truly is the gem. Okay, let's see here. Let's get to 1 John. Yeah, so interesting enough, I don't see it here. They do not have a textual note on 1 John 5, 7, and 8, which is interesting. I don't know why they left it out. Normally that's the big one that people go for. So, it's a hit or miss there. I know on 1 Timothy 3:16, it tries to say it's the reading should be he who was manifested in the flesh instead of God was manifested in the flesh, but obviously, I'll stick with the King James rendering of that. God is manifest in the flesh, the TR, I definitely think has that right. But you can just see again here the beautiful page edges, just the layout. I mean, look at this thing. It's a work of art. And it's not that big of a Bible. When I was watching other reviews, I think some people that just weren't used to the long primer, maybe they use smaller Bibles. This can feel larger if you go from a small Bible and you upgrade to a long primer. It definitely can feel bigger, but I tell you, like when I first got it, I thought, wow, this is smaller than I thought, which was good. I was actually pretty excited about this, but it's actually really easy Of course, when I'm holding a camera, not as easy, but it's really easy actually to hold it in one hand. As you can see, that's just one hand. I can move it. I've been reading out of this. I can hold it pretty good, and you want to hold it. That's the thing about Allan Bibles, guys. This thing is, it just screams at you to pick it up and read it. I mean, you just want to hold it. You want to touch it. You want to feel it. You want to engage with it. And I think that's exactly what these higher end Bibles do. They just draw you into the Word from their aesthetic view, and you just want to read it. When I first opened this, I read like 2 books of the Bible in like an hour. So it definitely drew me in. Now at the back, okay, let me see here. Let me get some other of these features in here though. You do have dates for certain parts of the scripture based off of Ussher's chronology of the Bible. You don't have it for the first few chapters of Genesis. I think until the calling of Abraham is when they start to put them at the top. But you can kind of see the rough dates of when they think the historical parts happened. So that's kind of nice to have. Again, love the verse numbers, that they're as big as they are. Really easy to find the text that you're looking for. The words never feel too crammed together. The spacing is really good. I'll say it is closer than some other Bibles as far as the spacing goes. So, you know, if you go for maybe a Schuyler to this, or a Humble Lamb, or maybe even a Turquoise to the long primer, the words may feel a little more crammed together than those, and I'll show you again a video of that. I'll compare those here for you. So let's get to the end of this Revelation. And at the back, you're going to have a lot of helps. These are all standard Oxford stuff here in the back. So if you have a Schofield Reference Bible, actually, everything you have in a Schofield Reference Bible is in the back of this Bible as well, because it's all from Oxford. So you're going to have the Dictionary of Scripture Proper Names, the Subject Index, and the Oxford Concordance. This is exactly everything that's in a Schofield Study Bible, the Classic Edition. So you might recognize this off the bat if you're thinking, hey, that looks familiar. It's because the long primer, or the long primer, is a Oxford text, and so it uses the same concordance and subject and all that, subject of proper names and everything. So that's pretty cool. You get a pretty thorough concordance. You get a pretty dense section of the subjects of proper names and the index and as well. It's a great Bible. So once the concordance ends, you get the new Oxford Bible maps. So it gives you a layout there. There's 9 maps. These are pretty standard Oxford maps. Again, these would be in your later edition of the Schofield Bible as well. And then I believe at the end of this, you get a map index. Yep. So that goes on for a little while. And then in the back, you get the Allan notebook paper as well. I think it's 32 pages of this. I think it's 16 whole pages back and front. So 32 line pages to take for notes, which is absolutely amazing. And it is actually notebook paper that they would use in their journals. So this is not Bible paper. It's not thicker Bible paper. This is actual notebook paper. Has the thinner lines, so which is good for me. I write small, so I can fit in there. But if you write big, you may take up 2 lines of text instead of 1. And you get to the back here, you can see Allan binding by Royal Youngblood. So what I want to do real quick is give you guys a comparison of the different sizes and looks of this Bible compared to some others. So first up, we'll look at the Cambridge Concord. Now you can actually see if you don't include the yap of the Allan, the Cambridge Concord and the R. Allan long primer are actually almost the exact same size text block as far as length and width go. It's a little bit, the long primer is a little bit wider, but they're essentially the same height. And the Concord is thinner. But the long primer, if it didn't have everything in the back that it has, it would definitely be a thin Bible. Now here's the Concord font compared to the long primer. The other thing I want to show you is the difference in the gilding. So you can see the Cambridge gilding is more of this copper, salmon type color. The R. Allan has the double red gild, so it's a lot darker of a red. Try to pull that down there so you can see the difference. Now the Concord has a great font. It's an 8 to 9 point font is what Cambridge says. And it's definitely bolder than the long primer font. But you can see, I think the spacing of the long primer is just a little bit better. They're both easy to read, though, I'll say that. And the Cambridge Concord obviously is a little bit smaller, so it's got more, it more leans towards being able to be carried everywhere. This is an amazing, but this is Cambridge's flagship Bible here, the Cambridge Concord. It has some cool things at the back too. You get a concordance and a Bible dictionary that's very dense, so that's very cool as well. The next for size that I want to compare it to was the Westminster, because this, again, people think the long primer is a big Bible. But here's the TBS Westminster on top. This is essentially the same size Bible. I mean, the text block is almost exactly dead on the same. So I wanted to show you that because if you have a Westminster, or you've seen a Westminster in person, the Westminster is not a large Bible. It is a true mid-size. It's about 8.5 inches by 6 inches wide. That's exactly what the long primer is. I think it's 8 3/4 by 6. So it's a very manageable size Bible. And I wanted to compare the cover. These are both Mariva calfskin. The TBS Westminster is a paste-off liner, whereas your Allan is the calf split liner. And these are both thick cuts of the Mariva calfskin. I think the Allan's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit smoother. This one has a little bit more of a grippy grain to it. This one's an amazing Bible. This is when they still made the TBS Westminster in the Netherlands. So it's a very awesome Bible. So then this will be more for font comparison. So those other two were mainly for size comparison. So you could see that this is really not a huge Bible. So if you wanted to carry this thing around with you, you can. I've done that, and I will continue to do it. I think it's a great size to carry, actually. And really, it's just overall a perfect size for preaching, for just reading, sitting down and reading, for taking to work with you. If you have a little bit more space, you could definitely take this to work. But to compare fonts now, we'll bring up the Schuyler Canterbury. But to show you here, the Canterbury is definitely bigger than the long primer. So you can see it matches edge to edge, but you got to keep in mind this Schuyler Canterbury does not have a full yap or even a semi yap. So the text block itself is actually quite a bit bigger than the R.L. Allan. And in the Canterbury, compared to the long primer, you're going to have an older font in a long primer. You're going to have a nice modern digital typeset for the Schuyler Canterbury. And you can kind of see the Canterbury page is just a lot bigger. Now these both have the double red dyed page edges, so they're about the same as far as the intensity of the art guild goes. But showing you a comparison here of the fonts, you can see what I'm talking about. If you had a Canterbury and that's what you're coming from to a long primer, you can see the long primer is going to feel maybe a little bit more crowded than probably what you're used to. The spacing on this guy, the Canterbury, is absolutely amazing. And with that modern font, you get the leading just right. The words are spaced just far enough apart. The lines are spaced really well apart. The long primer, because it's an older typesetting that was hand set, you have words that definitely, it's closer, but it's never too close. I mean, it really never does get too close. It is pretty perfect. Really, where you get the tightness is the lines in between, not the words, but necessarily the lines going down are a little bit tighter. But there's your comparison there between the Canterbury font and the RLN long primer. Then you have the Humble Lamb. Humble Lamb essentially uses the same font as the Schuyler Canterbury. I'll try to get to a black letter section here. And the Humble Lamb and this Allan are about the same price, by the way. So if you were debating between which one because of cost, they're actually the same price. Now, Humble Lamb's doing some really good work. They're actually just about to come out with a semi-yap edition as well, just like the RLN has a semi-yap. Theirs has actually a pretty generous yap for, they don't advertise it. They don't say, oh, it has a yap. But actually, this yap folds pretty decent over the text block. So, it's a little bit bigger than the Canterbury, but definitely smaller than what the Allan has here. But now they're going to come out with one where the yap comes out even more to help cover up that text block. But I want to give you guys a comparison of the fonts here. So essentially the same thing. It's like the Canterbury revamped a little bit. But the Humble Lamb is just an absolute joy to read as well. I've read this quite a bit and love the Humble Lamb. So there's a font comparison between that. Then the last one I want to compare as far as fonts go, this is the Turquoise that is produced by Church Bible Publishers in iron calfskin. So obviously cost-wise, it's not even going to be close. This is about 3 times less and is a great deal for what it is. So I'll open this guy up. That way you can kind of see. Now if you get the Cambridge Turquoise, just know the Cambridge Turquoise definitely has smaller margins than the Church Bible Publishers Turquoise does. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at buying it from Cambridge. It's going to be slightly smaller than the CVP edition, and the margins aren't going to be quite as wide. But you can kind of see the comparison here. When the Turquoise kind of went out of print for a while before Cambridge brought it back, and obviously before Church Bible Publishers started publishing it, a lot of people in the Bible community that I've heard have called it the Long Primer Slayer. So it was one of the main competitions that Cambridge came out with to compete with the Long Primer. And you can see why. The Turquoise definitely has a beautiful font. It's kind of like the Cameo font, just kind of jacked up a few point sizes. It's a very beautiful font. And the spacing on the Turquoise, I think, is really good. Smaller columns than the Long Primer has, so they're not as wide, shorter. The spacing is a little bit better, I think, between the words. And the line spacing's a little bit better. So, but as far as readability goes, obviously the Cambridge is going to have slightly better paper than this one does. But I got to tell you, really, this Church Bible Publisher one, it knocks it out of the water. It's a great reading experience. It's beautiful. Obviously, there's going to be more ghosting on this paper than there is on the R.L. Allan. This is more of a bright white color here. It's more of a cream color. And so you can kind of see that. The cool thing, though, about the Turquoise is you have the running chapter numbers. So, for example, Psalm 24 here is the 502nd chapter of the Bible. So that's really cool. I really do love that about the Turquoise. I think that's one of its coolest features. I'm a numbers guy. I like to nerd out about that. So it's cool when you're reading through the Bible. You can actually see, it's like you're making progress. You know, you see, oh, reading the 500th chapter, oh, the 600th chapter, the 900th chapter. So it's kind of cool to see that as you read through the Bible. But the center column references are kind of the same as it is in the Long Primer. So you're going to have them chained to the text through those little tiny letters that are all throughout. Except the Turquoise definitely has a lot less references, has less references than the Long Primer does. And it doesn't have as many textual footnotes, mainly because it follows the King James translator's notes, which the Long Primer has, but the Long Primer also adds critical notes on the Greek text and the Hebrew text with the Septuagint, the Aramaic, all those different things as well. So it has a little bit more as far as the textual notes go in the Long Primer. Now, one of the things that does happen in the Long Primer, if I can pull it up here, probably somewhere in the New Testament, is if you get enough references, they bleed over into the bottom. Let's see if we can find a case of it. I've only seen it on a couple pages, but when you see it, it kind of catches you off guard a little bit. Yeah, here. So you can see if the references get too many in the reference suite, it will spill out here onto the bottom. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that as well. So pretty much as the end of the review, what I'll do here is just give you guys a couple still shots of the text so you guys can kind of zoom in and look at it. This is a beautiful, again, 10 to 11 point font, bold, crisp. The new plates they ran on these things are definitely amazing. I have not seen any broken words or letters or numbers yet. Which I have the R.L. Allan Clarendon wide margin, and I love that Bible to death. That's the one I have in natural goatskin. Beautiful Bible, great paper, the best paper I think I've seen in any Bible. The problem is the scan they have from it is definitely not the best scan. And that's just due to the fact that the Clarendon was also hand set and printed that way. And so sometimes those letters wore down and you would get blotches, or the ink wouldn't take to certain ones and it would get worn down and leave a break. And so when they scan that, it comes out in the text as well. So it's not necessarily that their printing is wrong, or that the printing in the Netherlands is wrong. It's that when they scanned it, it scanned it with the broken letter. And so when they print it, it only prints what the scan says. And so the Clarendon has a lot of broken letters. It was some parts of the scripture, it was really frustrating. Like when I was reading through Galatians, there was a ton of broken letters and numbers, and that got really annoying. Because I always feel like I have to like color it in or finish it in with a pen, and I obviously don't want to do that. The long primer, though, is crisp, clean, dark, great Bible. This, you can see why this is the flagship Bible for R.L. Allan. So again, this is my review of the 52 long primer and Mariva calfskin. And again, I would say compared to the natural goatskin from R.L. Allan, I would honestly prefer the Mariva calfskin. It's so soft, so buttery soft. You can just see it form there as I'm doing that. And it's so floppy. I mean, look at that. Just flops right open. Super thick. It feels so good. I can't even describe it to you. You just want to touch it all the time. It's a great cut of calfskin. So soft, so flexible and pliable. The goatskin is too. The natural goatskin's that way too. The goatskin has a little bit more of a pebbly grain to it. It's super floppy and everything too, so don't think that. But just for me, on preference basis, I love the calfskin a little bit more. I haven't seen the Highland goatskin yet, so I can't speak on that. But I would buy this in Mariva calfskin, I think, before I would even buy it in the natural goatskin. So if that was something that was holding you back, I would say don't let it. Like, definitely buy the Mariva calfskin. This is definitely an Allan Bible, through and through. You get the nice, beautiful Beresford ribbons there, come all the way out. Very beautiful. You get the white head and tail bands, by the way. I forgot to mention that. That's kind of standard for Allan as well. But leave you guys with one more look here. And if you have any questions, comments, or if you want me to do any more in-depth comparisons or anything on the long primer, please leave that in the description below, and I'll definitely try to get to those. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching. Again, I know this is more of a reference, so please scan through this as you need to find what you're looking for. But I hope you guys have a great night. Take care, and God bless.